So you are given a posting at Vilai and you cannot deny that, right? That created the society. That made this country, at least contributed in making of this country. So if you ask me, I am ruthless, right? So if you know Maharashtrian should be in Maharashtra, no Odia should be in Orissa, right? But if you ask Tata Power, you go and say that I want to be in Delhi, I am from North India, so okay, to go there. So it's a constant debate that goes on, yes. I see, yes, again, when I say this, at the age of 22 or 21, when I started my career and I was posted in Vilai Steel Plant, the first thing I did was go to the personnel department in those days and ask for ways and means to get a posting in Durgapur Steel Plant. So again, what I am saying is that the people now do nothing different than what I did in those days. But if you ask my personal opinion, I mean, the companies, as the public sector, till they do, should be as diversified in as far as the place of posting is concerned. I mean, there is no going away from that fact. Yeah.
So sharing our own experience on this in Schneider, and I do face this as a very big challenge. And I come from the similar personal belief, and you know, there is that Hindi saying that koe ka mendak, that if you live in the same environment and have not been exposed to the diversity of the external world, you will think that you are a king in your own fiefdom. It's only when you are mobile, you transverse from one culture to the other. In fact, today I was coming from my residence to this institute along with one of your students who comes from Coimbatore. And he was giving me his perspectives and learnings that he had from this culture. But if there was somebody who was in this culture, he would not even notice the differences. There wouldn't have been a reflection. We are usually in the action mode, getting things done, but we do not step back and reflect. So what does Schneider do to grow people? Schneider has a policy that every 3 years, if you are a good performer, you must change your job. Why? Because you will learn different ways of working. You will get outside your comfort zone. And this is something which is very, very important. And every 3 years, people change their jobs. I really see a difference in those children whose parents had a transferable job, like in the army, in the armed forces. Those children have a much better ability to socialize, to reach out, to adjust, to learn, to compromise, and be flexible. So you are exercising a new muscle. Which are the muscles that you're exercising? Uncertainty, ambiguity, reaching out, facing rejection. You can't make friends very quickly. So try and exercise as many muscles as you can and take the risk to relocate yourself, to challenge yourself in a different environment, different culture, different role, different function, different business, so that you have the ability to keep exercising the new muscles and learn and acquire these skills. So it's very easy to get into your comfort zone, but you stop your learning very early in life. The other bit, Ranabir, that I really want your feedback and your experience more than anything else is career is not an end but a means to an end. And we who were born post-industrialization, where we had the scarcity mentality, and today the abundance mentality, where there are so many jobs, so many careers, so many options, and we do not have the fear of not being able to feed our family. So how do you see the Generation Y dealing with this?
You know, when I started my career, my father is retired, right? So, but when probably my son will start his career, I will also till then have 10 long years. When I started my career, my father never had any, okay, so he has gone through all the obligations of a joint family, and he was almost nothing else rather than his pension. I do not have any family obligation because I am born and brought up in a unitary kind of a family, satellite family, and so therefore, and really the country, kitna bhi hum log sarkar ko गाली दे दे, we have our savings more than what we had in 1990 when I started my career, right? So therefore, this savings, this opulence has definitely opened up arena for me to look beyond earning to feed myself and my family, right? And I think the next generation will have even more benefit. So they will be having choices, and they will enjoy life so-called far more than what we do. There is a famous book again by Viktor Frankl. I don't know how many of you have read it. That Man's Search for Meaning, and it's like a Bible to me. And I think it's the third school of thought as far as human motivation is concerned. Dr. Frankl there talks of logotherapy, and he says that man's search for meaning, what is kya kar raha hu, what I am doing in itself is meaning for life to him or her. And this book is again written I think it's just after the Second World War, so it will be in 1950s. Yeah, Second World War, so 1950s. So what was valid in 1950s is still valid today, right? So we all search for meaning of life in our work and beyond that, and we should be again, that is where the human system in an organization comes into play, where you allow people to take up those avocations, right? And we are proud to say we are one of the companies where all the websites are open, right? So I think another institute where I have seen it is IIM Rohtak, where some students were caught watching pornographic sites, and so Professor Kalro, who was a director in those days, so he was told, sir, we will block everything. He said, nothing doing, it is a choice. Never underestimate human choice, right? So as long as, and you give people their choice, and as long as, and moment you recognize people's choice, and you allow them to act on their choice, you are making a human system. Other than that, it's inhuman. It is either a terrorist organization where jo main bolunga wahi hoga. There is a feudalism, no? So I don't know whether I have answered. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm a great fan of Viktor Frankl too, and I completely agree that you've talked about the capacity and the aspect that I love in Viktor Frankl's book is you will be amazed to know what is the capacity of a human being unless you exercise that capacity. So it's a tremendous capacity where he shares his experiences of the Second World War and what all he experienced which we never fathomed. But it is as much as you can stretch. So a couple of messages that I want to continue to reiterate is for you to experiment with yourself and for you to not be in your comfort zone. Because how I see, and I have grown-up children, I have a daughter who's 27, 28 now, and a son who's 23, and I interact a lot with them, and I have 46% of my population from 25 years to 35 years. Their need for connectedness is very, very good. It's extremely resourceful. The moment they need help, they do not hesitate to reach out because they are not less off by reaching out. we were underconfident, and I'm not saying it for myself, or I'm saying the generation was not so connected, and reaching out and seeking help was not as easy as it is for the Gen Yers today. But what I see, which is going to be harmful for them, is they are trigger happy. They are not ready to put in a little bit of research. Now, when I did my PhD, I remember, we had to go and look at journals, the American Society of Psychology and Personal Psychology, and all the OB journals that you have, and go to one library, and that research in itself. And now my children say, so what value did it add when you travel? I mean, I can Google it and get whatever you want. But that perseverance had another outcome, which was patience. I was not trigger happy, therefore I would not trigger mails, which would create a chain reaction, and then I had to bring it back. So in the previous session I heard about the Barkada episode, and there are so many of such episodes which happen in our organization. I was sharing during lunch that today, because of the connectedness, we have a lot of value, but because of this inability to process information, we send the triggers immediately, and that has a very bad negative consequence, and which we had in one of our factories where we were about to have an agitation. This was clicked, all of the comments were put on social media. All of this happened in the evening. My head office in France had the information before I had it, because they were still working. In the morning when I got up, I see it all over the place, blown out of proportion, and later on got to know that it was concluded amicably and the issue did not really flare up. So for us to have that patience is important, for us to have that reflection is important, for us to process some data before we respond is important. And this is something that I see is missing out because of certain new technologies, which are actually very facilitative, and I use them a lot for our HR purposes, to disseminate information, to share information, and cut across the hierarchies, because ours is a very flat organization, non-hierarchical, and all of us use a lot of, in fact we have our internal Facebook for our employees. So these are things that I really want this generation to reflect upon, that what are things that we can learn from Gen Y, which we need to change the system, because it was a much slower moving system, and in today's world, if you keep with that pace, you will lose out, and therefore companies like ours ensures that we are using that even for our internal employees. Like I said, we have an internal Facebook, it's called Spice. So I move on to the next area that I want to ask you certain questions on, is about flexibility, working from home, and also trusting our employees on producing the outcome, and how do we get created the right kind of environment in the organization while giving these remote access, because every home then becomes an office or an extended space.
Hello. Yeah. I think in Tata Power context, working from home is rare, right? So though we have such innovative products, I don't know how many of you know as SKIP, the second career options for people who, particularly the lady employees who have gone on a maternity and they couldn't continue with the work. It's a program for them to come back and join the professional organizations. But working from home is very, very rare, because we really believe that our people should be by the side of the machines to work there. Incidentally, we are a very now some bad statistics. We are very male chauvinistic kind of organization, and only 10% of our populations are, lady managers. We are yet to have a lady director in any of the Tata company boards. So we are still to be there. So, but we are trying. We are definitely trying. We are very open to giving people. The next part is flexibility. Flexibility, you name it. I mean, and trust. I mean, these are the two. I think any Tata company you go, these are the two pillars. I mean, employees can do away with any kind of, murder in the name of flexibility and trust. I mean, we are okay with getting cheated. I'm quoting the word cheated by trusting people rather than not trusting people, right? So that is the kind of a value any Tata companies they carry through, and many of the times, right, on the serious side, the consequences are not very pleasant, right? So many of the time, you see a lot of social loitering happening. We are okay to, as a company or as a group, to live with that. So how you build trust? Simply by trusting people. If somebody gets up and says something, we do not want to go beyond the lines to find out any meaning. So it is a very, very simple way of